All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here and talk about. We got multiple threats for thunderstorms heading our way. Um, I'll be the first to tell you that today is a very complex situation, and I don't have a lot of confidence in the forecast today. And I'll try to explain why in just a minute. And then we'll skip tomorrow. Friday looks like it should be an okay day. Actually, tomorrow should be a decent day weather-wise. And then Saturday has the potential to be a little more significant if things come together, but we'll have to kind of wait and see how all that plays out. So let's get started by talking about what's going on outside right now. Of course, here in Wichita Falls, where I'm located at, it's been very soupy. You walk outside, very humid. We've had a lot of clouds and fog and drizzle around, but I do see, looking out my window, I do see some sunshine starting to kind of peek on through. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see how all develops. Right now, there are storms out there, but they're well far to the south of us. They're actually south of Interstate 20. They're down there, kind of where they were at yesterday. That's where the storminess was at. Was down in that area. And if you look down there, kind of well south of Abilene and those areas. These storms down here may play a role in what happens later today. These storms, they'll continue to move east. They're going to weaken and kind of move east with time, but they're generating what's called a bit of a bit of some rain cooled air down there, and it's taking the moisture content that's in the atmosphere and kind of sucking it out some down there in central Texas. You go north of that, though, and we have plenty of moisture. And as the sun comes out, it's going to heat everything up. And we're going to see quite a bit of instability or storm energy try to develop. So let's try to talk a little bit about the setup here. Golly, 41 viewers. That is so disappointing. I just can understand. I don't understand what's going on with Facebook. I just getting to where I just don't even like it anymore. All right, so let's kind of talk about what's going on here, and this will be on my page. And I guess I need to be yelling and screaming in order for the algorithms to like what I'm saying. Maybe I should start doing that. So let's pull in here some weather data so we can kind of talk about what's going on here. All right, so this is some current weather info. I want to go to a different source here first, and then we'll kind of get into today there. This will be saved on my page. You can always go back and look at it if you want to. All right, so there are those storms that are down to the south of us there. Move this here a little bit. Now we're up to 48 viewers now. All right, so there we are with what's going on right now. So, and I know a lot of this stuff gets pretty confusing, but if I take a look at surface observations, we're looking at dew point temperatures. And there's a bit of a hole down here. Yeah, we have 70-degree dew points. That measures the soupiness of the amount of moisture. Anytime it gets in the 70s, it gets real soupy outside. So we got quite a bit of moisture up here, mid to even some upper 70 dew points, and all the way into east and southeast Texas. But right there in the middle, I see some dew points in the 60s. So these little thunderstorms down here, I think, have caused the kind of sucked up some of the moisture in the atmosphere. And there's some indications that these lower dew points, or this little drier air, is going to try to expand northward. And if that happens, then that's going to take the surface-based instability and begin to zap it, and that would lower the threat for severe storms later today. You can see there's your hole right there. You can see it down there. You can see down there where you see this circle. That's where it's at. And again, that's forecasted to kind of advance northward. But sub weather information tries to kind of do away with that too. So we'll just have to see if we can continue to see our moisture content remain what it is now without seeing that what's called mixing out. Then the threat for severe weather goes up this afternoon. Mostly a hail threat, low end tornado threat, mostly a hail threat. All right, let's go back to our weather analysis here. Let me go down a little bit here and talk about what's going on. So we're going to go to this is the NAM model. Now, the NAM computer model, I like the NAM model. It's great usually with dry lines, and it's good with that what I was talking about, mixing of the atmosphere. It's good with parameters. Sometimes it's not real good with forecasting precipitation. But it shows, us continuing with that high octane moisture without any lower, so that it stays real humid throughout the day. But if we go to the high resolution stuff here, this is the high resolution rapid refresh. This is one of my favorite computer models. You can see it down there. Look at that little hole that's down there in the storms down there in Central Texas. And what happens is I'm moving forward in time. It lifts that northward and it drops our dew points near 60. Now I could see that taking place if we have thunderstorms in the area, and that thunderstorm is zapping out. But this indicates a bit of what we call a cold pull lifting northward, and that would just absolutely destroy our severe weather chances today. But it remains to be seen if that is actually going to happen. This has been pretty consistent, so I tend to believe it could. So if you notice it getting a little bit less soupy outside later today, then that indicates that there's less of a chance for severe weather. Not totally ruling it out, but less of a chance. This is what radar could look like here later today, and it does try to develop a few storms, but notice how it just doesn't really get them going here because there's no moisture. You have some more storms down towards the Metroplex, but that's where they've been, a lot of this spring where they've been at. So we'll just have to see how it all plays out. I'm not, like I say, super confident in the forecast. That's the HRRR. Here is this is another model. It's called the RRFS, and I'm not real keen on this, but it develops a whole lot more in the way of storms over us. That would be more of a significant threat for hail and wind there. But I'm just not sold that that's going to happen. I mean, like I say, if we wind up keeping that high moisture content, then yes, it would happen. So what I'm doing with the forecast today is I'm saying I'm going with isolated to scattered thunderstorm chances this afternoon. Lower end chances because confidence isn't particularly high. But we're not going to rule out some severe weather if we get it. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see how it all plays out. When it comes to dealing with severe weather, and you've heard me say this before, in our part of the country, for whatever reason, it is very difficult to get severe weather here. There's always something that usually happens that keeps it from happening here. I don't know why that is, because, oftentimes our location in the country isn't too much different than, 100 miles north or 100 miles south. But for some reason right here, we usually wind up, something happens that we don't get it. Today would be drier air mixing in. Yesterday it was the boundary went through too fast. And then Saturday, now we'll have to wait and see what happens on Saturday. I will kind of briefly touch on that here in just a moment, though. Remember, I am off work today, so Cameron is handling everything in the weather office. So, I mean, if anything, bad happens, I can always, head up that way. But right now, I'm hoping I don't have to do that. My parents are in town from Mississippi, and we got Cape's graduation Saturday, so I'm trying not to do that if I don't have to. But, I will if I need to. All right, so let's talk about Saturday. Let's fast forward through tomorrow. So there's a little front that pushes through, and we may actually see a little bit of a nicer air late tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. But there comes your push of moisture back up north. Notice that high octane moisture there into Saturday afternoon and early in the evening. Dry line, pretty sharp dry line focused across our western counties. You got mid and upper 70 dew points, which that is very, very humid. I mean, very rarely do you see dew point temperatures get that high here. So you've got plenty of moisture to work with. On Saturday, we've got a storm system kicking out. You got plenty of upper level energy moving in with strong jet stream winds. And something else you also have here is increasing. This is a significant tornado parameter on Saturday. And it does show increasing, not only moisture, but it also shows increasing low-level wind shear in what would be a tornado atmosphere. So while I'm not forecasting, a tornado outbreak here on Saturday, we do need to keep an eye on this here and see what happens. Because like I say, the atmosphere doesn't appear to be, at least in the afternoon and the earliest parts of the evening, to be too capped. I mean, there's a little cap there, but not much. And there appears to be plenty of moisture, plenty of instability for thunderstorms to get going. And if they do get going on Saturday afternoon and evening, they could be pretty rough. So we'll need to watch Saturday closely because we got lots of graduation ceremonies on Saturday. We get the rider graduation Saturday morning. Then we got plenty of kids having parties and whatnot on Saturday evening. And, that's a time when people really aren't going to be paying attention to the weather. But if we go ahead and say you need to be paying attention now, then maybe you'll do it. Hopefully you will. So I know that the NAM 3K, this is the high resolution version of the NAM model, which it's usually not that great with convective types or storm types, but it does sometimes do an okay job of showing where there could be some storms at. And see, it does show storms trying to form there. And like I say, it's usually not good with the severity of thunderstorms, but it does show some stuff trying to develop in there. So isolated stuff, and if that happens, we could be in trouble because that's probably stronger than what is being indicated here by the computer models. So let's just get through today. I'm not worried about tomorrow, and then we'll worry about Saturday. We'll start getting into that tomorrow, but it's not showing many storms over. It does show storms developing here this afternoon. So I do think we're going to see at least some storms in the area. But again, it just depends on what that moisture does today. If it mixes on out, then they may not be quite as strong. But mostly regardless, this is mostly a hail-producing type situation. So just be on the lookout for some stronger storms developing perhaps at some point later today that might produce, some mostly hail. Any hail, any wind or tornado threats probably on the lower end of things, but not totally being ruled out. So we're going to keep an eye on it, and of course I'll have updates later on today if I need to. Bowie, you going to see anything crazy today? I don't think so. We'll watch it and see, but I don't think so. There could be some storms around later on this afternoon, but I'm not going to rule it out. But I don't think anything too bad. So. And I do not, and we got some people comment on YouTube, and I don't know if that's a scam person or whatnot, but I do not, I cannot speak, I don't speak good Spanish, and I can read it and understand a little bit, but I'm not real good with it here, so. Heather versus Heather, no, not really. Very low wind threat. I mean, you can't rule it out. This year it seems like everything has been overproducing, has been overachieving things. You'll look at a situation and you'll say, hey, there could be some severe weather with that today. It doesn't really look that good for tornadoes, and all of a sudden you got, like yesterday, big, huge tornadoes. There weren't many of them, there's a couple of them, in an environment that wasn't super favorable for it. So they've just been overachieving, these systems have this year. So you can't rule anything out, but just the way that things look, it's hard to say, very hard to say, but I would say lower end threat for that. It could, Corey. It could. Saturday could be pretty rough. So we'll just have to keep an eye. You'll hear me say this all the time. Very rarely do these big systems ever produce here. It's usually up in Oklahoma, usually like central and eastern Oklahoma. But we just need to keep an eye on Saturday, because Saturday, if we get storms, could be pretty rough for some. But that still kind of remains to be seen as to whether or not we'll get them. And Carrie, we'll be a little bit more concerned for Saturday, but our focus for right now is on today, and then we'll start looking a little bit deeper into Saturday tomorrow. There's a chance once again that we may not even see a storm on Saturday. Like I've said before, usually these systems that look real scary wind up, producing big storms and tornadoes up there in central and eastern Oklahoma, but and sometimes even southern Oklahoma, but very rarely down in our area. But they can, though. I mean, they can. Don't get me wrong. There's really no rhyme or reason for it, but we'll have to just see. Everything just has to come together for it. Timing is everything. If that system slows up a little bit, everything comes out at night, and it won't be as much of a severe threat. But we'll have to just wait and see. I do not understand what you're saying, Jay. I can't. That's probably a bot, I imagine. I don't really know. Looks like he's trying to forecast hurricanes there. And our focus right now isn't on hurricane season. It's on tornado season. We'll get to the hurricanes when we get over into the summer. I know hurricane season officially starts in June, but you really don't see a big uptick in um, hurricanes until you get over into August and September, really. At J Stop Alto. I'm a I'm a River Valley person. I don't know what that means either. So, but anyway. So I don't. I'm trying to answer your questions if they have on here. Yeah, they always post on here. I agree. I'm not. I don't know if that's a bot or what it is, but they're it's on here. Everything I see it, I usually just don't address it. So I mean, it's not hurting anything. So, but like, there's 3 posts basically saying the same things. It's got to be a bot. What's the maximum hail size, Darren? Well, again, if we can keep that instability going, Cape values ought to be pretty large. I mean, you could get golf ball, baseball size hail with the stronger supercells with that. But it just depends on what that moisture does. And I know you follow weather, Darren. And if you look down, to the south, there's this pool of, a hole right in the middle of all this tropical moisture. And the HRRR model, and anyway, develops that northward and basically kills the Cape over us today. But the NAM model does not, and I'm usually a NAM I like the NAM model when it comes to forecasting things like that. So we'll just have to, the 3K NAM kind of does it too, but it has storms and the reason why it does it. So we'll just have to just kind of wait and see what happens. How come the station in Oklahoma has different weather conditions than y'all's models? It's y'all's sister station. I can't answer. It's not no, it's not different models. No, they're showing the same models that we have access to the same models that they do. It's no different. But it's all weather is subjective. Remember, it should be an opinionated weather, an opinionated forecast is what it should be. You look at the weather information, and based upon what you're seeing, this is your opinion. But and I'm not speaking for KSWO because I don't know what they do. And Lex, she's a good meteorologist. She knows what she's doing up there. But in a lot of cases, your local TV and these internet guys these days don't do their own forecasting. They base everything upon what the National Weather Service says or what the Storm Prediction Center says. They don't have and again, I'm just speaking for myself anyway. I don't do that because, I have my own opinions and my own knowledge of weather. I've been here a long time. I've seen a lot of different weather patterns, a lot of different weather systems, and I get these gut feelings about it, just by looking at things, just know what usually happens in these situations. So, what you're seeing from me is my own forecast, and what you see at other stations, sometimes anyway, you may be seeing what the Weather Service is saying. So, and again, I don't know if that's what they do at KSWO or not, but I'm just speaking for myself. That's why you see different with me, and and sometimes it can be confusing, but I don't like to just show the Storm Prediction Center convective outlooks, because if they're wrong on their forecast, I'm wrong on my forecast. Sometimes I agree with it, and sometimes I don't. I just use that basically as a little guidance, and I do my own thing. So that's what you see with me. That's why I'm different. It's nothing against those guys. Those guys are great forecasters, but I like to add my own little tweaks to it. So that's what you see with me. That's why I'm different than others. And I guarantee you, my forecasts are usually different than most forecasts you're going to see, or at least a little bit different. Some of those guys up in Oklahoma City do their own thing too, and they do a pretty good job. So I hope I answered your question, Garrett. There's some storms going to be around there this afternoon and this evening. I don't know how much rain you're going to get. It's just hard to say at this point in time. I don't think so. I don't think the risk has gone up, Ty. I think it's still about the same as it has been. It's just kind of a wait and see type of situation. It's hard to say. We were talking about earlier about, this pocket of dry air down there in central Texas trying to lift north. If that happens, it lowers the risk. But if that doesn't happen, if that doesn't come in, then the risk will be there for some pretty big hail. Low-end tornado threat, but some pretty big hail. I'll try to answer you guys' questions the best that I can. Because again, my biggest concern is to help you with your storm anxiety. Will we go under a watch today? It's possible. I would think severe thunderstorm watch. You're kind of in that same boat that we're in here. The storms may wind up being west and north of PK, but it's a close call if we get storms. And again, like I was saying before, if that dry air mixes into the equation, then, may not have to worry about it at all. We'll have to just kind of wait and see. Alex, so the risk for Lawton is about the same as it is everywhere else. Kind of a wait and see type of situation. Very difficult to tell. Confident, it's just the confidence level just isn't super high. And like I said once, I'll say it again. Usually something always happens and keeps the storms away. But occasionally it doesn't, so we'll have to just see. Sarah, I don't have a time frame. It'd be, early to mid-afternoon if we get, and we're talking about this too, if we get storms. If. We'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. Let's see if we have any new stuff coming in yet here. This is the latest HRRR, but it's not out very far. So I'm just going to see what it does. It shows as dew point still just getting chewed up. And one thing you look for with weather information is consistency. And it has been so consistent with this. I can't help but believe that this is going to happen. And that would, again, greatly lower the chances for severe weather if that happens. It doesn't eliminate it, but it would lower it. And that's why you're not seeing the HRRR break out any storms here. So I do want to reiterate that it is possible that we don't see hardly any storms today. It is possible. I would think so, Chris. If we get storms, yes. There's a big if. I'm going to still forecast at least isolated storms today, but there's a chance that we don't see anything at all. Yeah, it's possible, but that's still, a little bit of ways away. And it's possible. And the reason why is, and of course, you're going to see lots of hype on social media about it because there's big, scary parameters out there. If we get storms on Saturday, and I may be a little bit more pushy than I normally am because we got so many activities taking place on Saturday evening with graduation Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. So we'll just need to be weather alert Saturday just in case. I'm not saying that we're going to get storms, but if we do, they could be pretty nasty, pretty gnarly. But we'll have to just see if that even happens. I'm probably going to place Saturday in a first alert weather day, most likely. Usually when I put first alert weather day out there, we usually don't get anything. I don't do well with those. It's when I don't put them out is when we usually see something. It's just, again, severe weather is just so hard to forecast in this part of the country because just one little thing happens and then boom, you don't get nothing. You're dealing with the cap strength. You're dealing with, the timing of these storm systems coming out. You're dealing with, like today, a pocket of dry air that could, kill everything. And, you just don't know. Samantha, what we're talking about today is thunderstorm chances that we may not even get. We may not even see storms today. But if we did, it would be early, probably mid to late afternoon. But it just depends on that pocket of dry air. If it expands into the area, then, it kind of lowers the threat there. Thanks for watching me from Norman there, Alexis. Appreciate you. You're welcome, Samantha. And once again there, even for Jefferson County, if we get storms, mid to late afternoon, if we get storms, if. We may not see anything. You're welcome, Thomas. All right, well, time right now is 12 o'clock, so I'm going to jump off here. I'm going to go and get busy doing some stuff around the house. We'll do some updates this afternoon if we need to. And, just keep an eye on the weather today. Right now, I'm not overly concerned. Just keep an eye on the weather today, and we'll work